Hi, and welcome to the lecture where we'll talk about how we're going to compare professional communication platforms. This is human computer interaction, and I'm your professor, Dr. English Dowdell. Now, in this module, we're going to shift our focus slightly from analyzing individual interface elements to looking at an entire digital communication platform. Now, up to this point in the course, we've discussed several key human-computer interaction concepts, including mental models, feedback, signifiers, and affordances. Now, these concepts, they help us understand how interfaces communicate with users through design. This week, you're going to apply those same ideas to analyze real communication platforms that people use every day in the workplace. Examples will include platforms like Slack, Discord, Zoom, Google Meet, and WhatsApp. Now, rather than simply asking whether a platform is good or bad, the goal of this module is to examine how the interface design influences communication behavior. In other words, we're asking, how does the design of a platform guide the way people communicate? Now, for this assignment, you're going to complete a digital platform analysis by first selecting one communication platform from the list provided in the module. You'll then explore that platform using the Get Started guide and examine how the interface communicates with users. Now, as you explore the platform, take notes about what you observe. Think about things like, what actions are obvious? What actions require more effort to find? What visual cues guide you through the interface? Now, once you've explored the platform, then you're going to write a discussion post analyzing what you discovered. Now, your post must compare the platform you selected with Microsoft Teams, which is one of the most widely used communication platforms in professional environments. Now, when analyzing the platform, you should focus on several key design concepts, the ones that we've discussed in this course. So first, consider signifiers. Now remember, signifiers are visual cues that indicate what actions are possible. So for example, buttons, icons, labels, and highlighted areas, they all act as signifiers that tell users what they can do. So you're going to ask yourself, what elements in the interface clearly indicate available actions? Are important features easy to identify? And ask yourself, do the icons or labels clearly communicate their purpose? Next, you should consider affordances. Now remember, affordances refer to the actions that the interface allows users to perform. So for example, a message box invites users to type a message. A camera icon suggests starting a video call. A plus sign may indicate creating a new conversation or a channel. I want you to look closely at how the interface suggests these actions, and then ask yourself, does the design make it obvious how to start a message, a call, or a meeting? Are communications features, are they easy to access? And then does the interface guide users towards certain types of interactions? Now, an important part of this assignment is comparison. You're going to compare the platform you selected with Microsoft Teams. So I want you to think about questions such as, what features are similar, between the two platforms? What features are different? Does one platform encourage more structured communication, such as meetings and scheduled discussions? Does another platform encourage faster, maybe more informal communication? For example, like some platforms, they're designed primarily for quick messaging and ongoing conversations, while others might emphasize more scheduled meetings and formal collaboration. Now, these design choices, they influence how people communicate in professional environments. Now, you might be wondering what this type of comparison actually looks like. Okay, so let me show you a quick example here comparing Microsoft Teams and Slack. Okay, on the screen, you can see a simple comparison table. So, for example, when we look at messaging or message structure, okay, Microsoft Team organizes communication through teams, channels, and threaded conversations, while Slack also uses channels, but the conversations tend to feel a little more continuous, like a continuous chat, with optional thread replies. Okay. Next, consider a key signifier in the interface. Now, in Microsoft Teams, one of the most prominent signifiers is the Start Meeting button, which clearly indicates that meetings and scheduled collaborations are a central part of the platform. While in Slack, a common signifier you'll see is the plus icon used to start a new message or create a new channel. Now, this visual cue emphasizes quick messaging and ongoing conversation. Okay, now let's look at the affordances. Microsoft Teams strongly supports the ability to schedule and host meetings, which makes it well suited for structured collaborations such as project discussions or formal workplace meetings. Slack, on the other hand, tends to afford quick conversational messaging, allowing teams to communicate rapidly, through channels and informal discussion threads. Now, when we look at these design differences, we can start to see how the interface design encourages different types of communication behavior. And that's exactly the type of analysis I want you to perform in your discussion posts. Now, you don't need to create a large table like this, but thinking about the platform in terms of features, signifiers, and affordances will help you clearly explain how the interface supports communication. Now, when writing your discussion posts, try to approach the platform as an interface analyst, not just as a user. Okay, instead of focusing on your personal preferences, I want you to focus on how the design communicates with users. So ask yourself things like, how does the interface guide user behavior? Okay, what design choices support communication effectively? Are there elements that might confuse new users? How might the design of the interface influence how people communicate on that platform? For example, like a platform with clearly organized channels that might encourage group discussions, while a platform with prominent call buttons that might encourage more live meetings. Now, these are the kind of design observations that we want to explore. Now, before you submit your discussion posts, I want you to make sure that you include at least one specific interface example from the platform that you explored. So, in other words, instead of writing something general like the platform is easy to use, okay, I want you to describe a specific design element that supports communication. So, for example, you might describe a button, an icon, a navigation element, or maybe a messaging interface that explains how it guides the user. You could say something like, the camera icon next to the message box acts as a signifier that users can quickly start a video call. And this design encourages spontaneous meetings during conversation. Okay, now this type of explanation, it helps connect the interface design to the communication behavior that it supports. Remember, the key goal is to analyze how the interface communicates with users through design. Now, you are encouraged, although It's optional and not required to include screenshots in your discussion posts. Screenshots can help illustrate the signifier or the affordances that you're describing. So, for example, you might highlight a messaging interface, an icon that's used to start a call, a button used to create a new conversation, or a navigation panel that organizes communication spaces. Including these kind of screenshots, they can help make your analysis clearer and more specific. Now, if there are other discussions that are posted in the discussion board from other students, after you post your analysis, I want you to reply to at least one classmate. Ideally, choose a classmate who analyzed a different platform if you can, other than the one that you selected. And in your reply, you might compare like how the two platforms support communication differently, or maybe expand on their analysis by identifying additional signifiers or affordances in the interface. The real goal in this discussion is to just help everyone see how different platform designs influence communication in different ways. Now, by the end of this module, you should begin to see that communication platforms, they aren't just tools, okay? They're designed environments that shape how people interact, how they collaborate, and how they share information. Now, through this analysis, you're going to gain a deeper understanding of how interface design decisions influence real-world communication behaviors. So take your time exploring the platform that you choose. Okay, look closely at the design elements and think about how the interface communicates with its users. I look forward to reading your observations and your comparisons.